Hey guys, tonight we're heading somewhere you've probably never imagined sleeping. The bobbing belly of a floating post office drifting along a foggy Indian river in the 1880s. Yeah, you heard that right. A floating post office. Picture this: humid air clinging to your skin, oars dipping in slow rhythm, a brass horn echoing off jungle banks, and sacks of handwritten letters swaying with the boat's lull. Your bed? A straw mat next to the parcel bins? Your neighbors? A postmaster who snores like a steam engine and a goat who thinks your shoes are snacks? You probably won't survive this between the cholera, the crocodiles, and the daily danger of paper cuts. But hey, that's part of the charm. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. I love seeing how far these stories float. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake to the creak of wood and the sharp musk of damp hemp. The Ganges stretches out before you, veiled in low mist. Somewhere behind the misty curtain, a monkey shrieks in protest, possibly at the absurdity of running a postal network from a boat. You scratch your neck, already bitten by something small and determined. It's going to be one of those days. The boat, an old teak barge retrofitted by the British, is roughly the length of 2 bullock carts and twice as stubborn to steer. Painted in dull reds and blacks, it floats low in the water, heavy with crates, sacks, and the scent of overworked humanity. You, poor soul, are the newest postal assistant. That means you're up at dawn to sort envelopes by lamplight and shoo away rats with a slipper. Your superior, Mr. Ramchandra, mustache as wide as his moral standards, has already brewed a cup of something that might be tea or might be boiled rainwater with cardamom. He nods at you without looking up from a stack of soggy postcards. Today, we stop at Bhagalpur, he mutters. Try not to drop anything overboard this time. Ah, Bhagalpur, the halfway mark between Calcutta and Patna. The river here is wide and temperamental, prone to sudden mood swings and floating surprises like half-sunk logs or, on one infamous day, a dead cow with 3 letters stuck to its flank. That was before your time, or so they say. You make your way to the back of the boat, where the sorting room sits, if you can call a tiny, wobbling cubicle a room. The walls are lined with cubby holes, each labeled with destinations in Devanagari, Urdu, and English. Envelopes bound with twine are piled high, many stamped with fading seals and blurred addresses. You spot one addressed to Miss Florence G. in Lucknow, written in a flourishing hand. A love letter, probably. Or poison. Historians still argue whether the post office was a tool of empire or a bridge of hearts. The boat groans as it pushes against the current, paddle wheels slapping rhythmically. Your ears start to tune into the symphony of this strange water world. The splash of the oars, the clink of teacups, the rustle of paper, and the occasional clatter of coconuts being traded from riverbank vendors who paddle up in canoes like floating shopkeepers. Around mid-morning, a customs inspector boards the boat. He wears a vest that used to be white and carries a ledger as thick as your thigh. He scowls theatrically before checking the cargo. "Any illicit parcels?" he demands. You blink at him. "Only someone's wedding dress and 5 jars of mango chutney." He grunts, scribbles something vaguely threatening, and steps off just as quickly. Life aboard a floating post office is oddly bureaucratic and deeply chaotic. The British East India Company originally commissioned these boats to bypass rough roads and rebel-infested territory. Easier to send a letter by water than risk your courier being eaten by a tiger or bribed by the wrong Raja. The steamer lines became arteries of colonial logistics, and later, humble lifelines for common folk. Not everyone had a pigeon or a pony. Just before noon, you dock at a bamboo pier. Bhagalpur's station master greets the boat with the solemnity of a coronation, holding a small brass gong which he hits exactly once. No one knows why, but it's tradition. You help offload bundles of letters, including a suspiciously heavy one marked fragile. Inside, a porcelain deity from Madurai, apparently mailed as an offering. The recipient, a frazzled widow in a turmeric-stained sari, accepts it like she's receiving a divine Amazon package. You linger a bit on shore, taking in the scene. Women haul water in copper pots. A kid sells roasted peanuts, wrapped in yesterday's newspaper. A British officer shouts about delays in receiving his essential correspondence, which, judging by the perfume wafting from the envelopes, might be less about empire and more about Emily. Back on board, the boat is lighter, but no less stuffy. The goat has eaten part of your lunch, again, and someone's pipe smoke is curling into your eye. You lie down for a brief nap on a crate of unsorted mail, the wood warm under your cheek. As you drift off, you imagine each letter as a bottle at sea, tiny stories floating through the tides, carried by your tired hands, and a river older than any empire. Here's your quirky fact of the day. Some boats doubled as traveling banks, complete with armed guards and a steel safe. One even had a trained parrot that screeched, "Deposit!" whenever someone came near the coin drawer. They say it once scared a thief into jumping overboard. By late afternoon, rain clouds bruise the horizon. The monsoon doesn't knock, it just bursts through the door. You scramble to cover the sacks, shielding them with tarps and desperate prayers. The goat remains nonplussed, chewing on a soggy ledger. Mr. Ramchandra yells about mildew and the sacred duty of preservation, which, in this case, mostly involves yelling and swatting at the storm with a broom. And yet, amidst the chaos, something beautiful persists. A woman on the opposite bank sings as she does laundry, her voice curling across the water like incense. A fisherman waves, balancing on one leg at the prow of his boat. A letter flutters from your hands, caught by the wind, and just in time, you catch it against your chest. It's addressed to someone named Meena, in thick, loving strokes. For a moment, your fingertips hold someone else's longing, and that, in all this mess, feels sacred. You lean against the wet rail, breathing in the earthy scent of churned-up silt and rain. The boat groans again, as if trying to clear its throat. And slowly, the day drifts toward evening. By the time the sun gives up behind the banyan trees, the river has changed its face. What was misty and gray this morning is now an inky mirror, stretching in every direction under a velvet dusk. The boat rocks gently, anchored near a cluster of sleepy huts along the riverbank. You're still damp from the afternoon downpour, and your shirt clings like yesterday's regrets. You sit with your back against a crate marked Calcutta Urgent, chewing a roasted peanut you may or may not have stolen from a child earlier. Mr. Ramchandra paces the deck, lantern in hand. "Time to lock up the bags," he says, though it's less of an instruction and more of a ritual. Each sack is tagged, counted, and stowed in a central chamber below deck, where the humidity feels like you're breathing through a damp bedsheet. You help him drag them down the narrow stairs, the wood groaning with each step. One bundle rattles faintly. "Don't ask," Ramchandra mutters. "You don't." Night on the floating post office is a different world entirely. There's no engine hum, just the croaking of frogs, the occasional hoot of an owl, and something large splashing in the water that you really hope is just a fish. The boat becomes quieter, almost reverent, like it knows it's carrying the weight of thousands of unspoken words. Love confessions, court summons, shipping invoices, heartbreaks. 1,000 lives, folded and sealed, rocking gently on this wooden cradle. You climb back up to the deck, lantern in hand, squinting at the dense dark. Lightning flashes in the far distance, illuminating the jungle like a phantom photograph. Careful tonight, Ramchandra warns. There's a chill in the water. He doesn't mean temperature. He means something else. This boat has stories, more than just what's written on the envelopes. Ask any crew member, and they'll tell you, post offices are haunted, especially the floating ones. Paper absorbs everything, one old-timer once told you. Sadness, joy, anger. By the time a letter reaches its destination, it's carrying more than just ink. Whether that's poetic or paranoid is still up for debate. Historians still argue whether the folk tales that swirl around these postal boats were born from bored minds or bitter truths. You settle in for your night shift, the least glamorous job aboard, night watch. Armed with a stick, a whistle, and enough mosquito bites to qualify as a constellation, you begin your rounds. You check the cargo bay, still locked. The goat, sleeping. The sorting room, quiet. Except, you pause. There's a sound, soft, rhythmic, like paper sliding. You peek inside. Nothing moves, but the air feels off, thicker. You step in and glance at the cubby holes. One letter is sticking halfway out. Curious, you pull it free. It's old, really old. The ink is brown, the paper brittle, and there's no address, just a name. To the one who watches. You blink. Okay, that's not creepy at all. You tuck it back, chalk it up to exhaustion, and return to your post. But the mood has shifted. The boat seems quieter. Too quiet. That's when you hear the knock. 3 soft taps. From below the floorboards. Now, before you panic, there's a logical explanation. Maybe it's water slapping the hull. Maybe a fish. Maybe a sleepy goat shifting. But your gut says otherwise. You lean down, ear to the planks. Nothing. Silence. And then, another knock. You scramble up, heart pounding, and find Ramchandra sipping his 4th cup of tea. You hear that? You ask. Hear what? You explain. Slowly. He doesn't laugh. He just sighs, sets his cup down, and says, "Every boat has ghosts. Ours just writes letters. Apparently, there's a story. Of course there is. Years ago, a clerk named Salim worked this same route. He was obsessive, punctual, and a little too invested in his letters. They say he once risked his life to deliver a single envelope during a flood. One night, he vanished. No struggle, no witnesses, just gone. But every so often, someone finds a letter without a stamp, addressed in his handwriting. You don't find that comforting. Later that night, rain starts again, gentler this time. You huddle under the canopy, watching droplets ripple the river's surface. The lantern's glow dances across the water. You drift in and out of sleep, dreaming of letters with no return address and boats that never reach shore. Then a shape moves near the bank. A man, pale robe, holding something. A bag? You blink hard. He's gone. Sleep deprivation's a beast, especially when it wears a ghost costume. You rub your eyes and check your surroundings. Still anchored, still floating, still carrying the last mail of the day. Somewhere between nothing and nearly morning, you sneak into the sorting room again. That strange letter is gone. In its place, a single envelope, fresh, crisp, bearing your name. You don't open it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Instead, you step outside as the sky begins to brighten, the horizon painted in a soft watercolor of peach and rose. Mist lifts from the river in lazy swirls, and the boat groans as it shifts with the current. A new day begins. You're exhausted, mosquito-bitten, possibly cursed. And yet, there's a strange peace in it. This floating post office, ridiculous as it seems, carries the pulse of something real. Letters binding strangers, laughter scratched in ink, final farewells, and hopeful beginnings, anchored to a slow-moving raft of wood and willpower. Here's your historical fact for the night. In 1854, India became one of the first countries in Asia to introduce uniform postage rates, and by the late 1800s, it had one of the most elaborate postal systems on Earth: land, foot, camel, and boat-based. Floating post offices weren't just quirky, they were essential. And your fringe tidbit? There was one mailboat captain who trained his pet monkey to recognize post bags. Allegedly, the monkey once retrieved a fallen sack mid-river and returned it to deck, soaked but intact. Sadly, he never got a pension. The morning light grows stronger now. Ramchandra stretches his arms and yawns. Another day, another bag, he says, entirely unbothered by your haunted expression. The anchor is pulled. The boat begins to move. And you, floating between logic and legend, prepare for whatever stories today's letters may hold. So now, with the river behind us and the night stretching quietly ahead, let your breath slow down. You're not sorting mail anymore. There's no knock from beneath the floorboards. Just the soft creak of old wood and the hush of water lapping at your thoughts. Picture the mailboat gently drifting, its lantern flickering in the pre-dawn calm. The sack of letters is tied, sealed, and safe. Somewhere, a child will smile when a long-lost cousin's note arrives. Somewhere else, a woman will cry quietly over words she's waited months to read. And you? You were part of that. Of thousands of tiny connections strung across the subcontinent like little golden threads. The ghost stories? Maybe they're just memory playing dress-up. Or maybe, somewhere, a clerk named Salim really is still making his deliveries, long after anyone remembers his name. It doesn't matter now. You're back in bed, real bed, where the only rocking is from the fan's gentle hum and your own breathing. Let the edges of the floating world fade. Let the last whisper of the river carry you gently toward sleep. Whatever the truth of those quiet knocks and mysterious letters, one thing remains. Every story you carry, whether written, spoken, or dreamed, deserves a place to land. Good night, river courier. Sleep well, letter keeper. Dream softly, traveler of ink and tide.